Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Trey with TreyMixes.com, and we're going to start a new series of videos. From start to finish, we're going to mix a song, so we'll call it Mixing from Scratch. And we're going to go from prep and setup all the way to finalizing a mix and getting the song back out there. And we'll address all the issues as they come up. We'll go section for section and really tackle how my thought processes work and how I'm working on these mixes. And so in this one that we're going in blind all together now, and we're going to do this whole thing from start to finish together. I got the client's permission, and the first thing we're going to do is prep day. So today we're just going to prep the mix, set everything up to where it's ready to go, and we'll do mixing on another day. But this is really important. It can help you visually set up your mix in a way that's easy to follow along and help save you a lot of time in the process. So let's drag our tracks in. And so now we've got all these tracks, and the first thing I'm going to do is I want to label them in such a way that's going to be easy for me to see and recognize what it is I'm looking at. So we're going to change the names first, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's probably speed up the tape here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we've got all these tracks labeled in such a way that I kind of can look at them and tell what I'm looking at. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange them visually into instrument groups and color them appropriately so that I have a much easier time finding everything visually. I'm going to do this again, speed up the tape, save you guys some time, and we'll be right back in a second. Now that we've got all our colors assigned to everything, I like to keep my drums in the yellowish, orangish range. These two tracks, Drum Mix and Drum Verb, they're auxiliary tracks that kind of came with the drum tracks, because I know that these were, I now know that these were not recorded live. I know that they were recorded sampled or with an electronic kit. And so the client was good enough and nice enough to send us a full mix, which we may or may not use, and the drum verb as an auxiliary track separate, which is great and useful, and maybe we'll use it, maybe we'll get rid of them if we can't make it fit the best way we can in the mix. And then bass I keep red, guitars I keep various shades of blue, and vocals I keep various shades of purple. That's just how I like to do it, and it helps me get around my mix a whole lot easier because I know what colors I'm looking at. I sometimes make the yellow brighter, but it's really hard to look at right now. So here's where we are with all our colors. The next thing I see is I've got a couple of tracks that were recorded a little hot, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some gain stage knowledge, pull the gain down on those to get them kind of even before we ever start, because I don't want to start clipping anything. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And there, we've just got them at a more manageable level. I'll worry about the actual levels later when we get to mixing, but I just want to go ahead and give us a head start. The next thing I like to do is I'm going to clean up all the dead space in tracks that I can see, because in like the guitar tracks, the bass, the vocals in particular, where there's a dead space, I'm going to cut and fade so that we get rid of all of any kind of line noise, room noise, and save us some trouble now. Before we ever get into the mix, we have to stop and do some more edits or cleanups. So we're going to do some cleanup work now. So you'll get to see how I will we'll trim a track down, fade it, and get our project set up a little better. We'll do one real fast. I can tell that in this project, the bass is the first thing yes, the bass is definitely the first thing that's making noise. So we're going to trim everything up to the start and then move it back so that when we actually start to work, we'll actually start to hear noise. So drag them close. There we go. There we go. So we're starting here at the start, and I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning these things up, and I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back once again. Now, I've cleaned everything up mostly, just trying to give myself a head start later. It's also easy to navigate. So if I want to just get to a certain spot, I can just click on a clip now and get to there instead of when I click on something that's a full track and hit a play shortcut, it might take me all the way back to the start instead of where I click. So I'm saving myself some time there. I may do some more of the edits later, more bringing things down. And as we listen to the track and start doing some other things, I may notice that there's other things that need to be edited. So we'll do some of that as we go. But again, at prep day, I want to give myself the best chance starting off to get things done in a more timely manner. So now we're going to pull up our mixer, and I'm going to start going through and I'm going to bust together my instruments. Let me talk about this just for a second. It's just easier to manage a volume of a whole group. We can just use a single fader once we get our group volume set. And volume as we mix is a really fluid thing. We may make some processing and some adjustments to individual things that need to be changed later. It's a very reactive process, but I want to, again, give us the best chance I can to start off strong. So let's go through and bus everything together. We're going to take all our drums and make a bus, our bass and make a bus just for the bass, even though we have one bass track. The only thing I want to go ahead and discuss is since we have these extra drum auxiliary tracks, I'm not going to bust them in yet. We may decide to use them in that way later, but I'm going to kind of leave them out of the busing process at the moment so that we can use them as we see kind of fit, or we can just get rid of them later if that comes to it. So we'll go ahead and bust things up. Now I know since this song it's going to be a pretty loud and slamming song. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I know I will probably use parallel compression on the drums. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a parallel drum bus and set that up now, again, saving myself time later because I know that I'm probably going to do that. So we're going to create a send. You'll excuse my little slashes. That's medical paperwork technology for parallel, like parallel bars if you work in gymnastics. Anyway, a little esoteric tangent. However, that just so everyone knows, those little slashes, that's my cue to myself for parallel processing. So parallel drums in this case. And I'm going to make this a pre-fader send because that's how I do this. There we go. Now back to what we're doing. Sunrise was good to me. And I know since we just have really a single vocal track and not doubles or triples, I will probably do a lot of parallel vocal processing, parallel vocal compression. I just know this already about myself and how I do this. So I'm going to do the same thing I did for the drums and make a pre-fader send parallel vocal bus. And if all that sounds really confusing, don't worry about it. We'll get to it when we get to the episodes about parallel processing or vocal compression, drum compression. We'll get to it. Now, here's something I like to do also. Since the stereo out will have a lot of bus processing on it for my entire mix, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send all of my current buses to another aux that I'm going to create that is just the entire mix bus for me. So I can put so I can put bus total mix processing on the mix bus and send that to the stereo, and then I can keep any kind of reference tracks that I may use. We can send that to the stereo out and bypass the mix bus. So any whole mix compression or top-down mixing processing that we'll do will not affect the reference tracks, which is really helpful. And again, we'll get into all that later, but I wanted to kind of explain what it is I'm doing as we go along and do it. So there we go. Now we have all of our tracks set up. Go ahead and add one more track for references. And as we said, we are not going to send him through the mix bus. We're going to send him directly through the stereo out, so it will not go into our mix bus chain of processing. Now, the very last thing I want to do is I'm going to just hit play in one of these sections. We have a lot of stuff going on, and just ensure that we're not clipping all of these buses. Still not going to listen to the song. We're not going to be working on mixing, but this is going to, again, prep us for later, because I don't want to be clipping on any of our tracks, any of our buses, the mix bus. We want to go ahead and get the gain staging issues out of the way now so that it's not a hassle later. Okay, quick clipping. Let's go somewhere else. Okay, so almost every single track is way up here in the -3s and 4s. Here's one and a couple others. So what I'm going to do, just to go ahead and save us the trouble later, I'm going to go ahead and turn the gain down on everything. We'll try again and see if we're still clipping. And the answer is no. Now, of course, it's still a little hot for the entire stereo, but at least we're giving us a chance now, coming into it, to when we make our more minor adjustments on the faders, we'll have a better place to start instead of going through everywhere and trying to find exactly which track is peaking, exactly which one is causing us issues. But none of our buses are peaking, our mix bus and our stereo out are not clipping. So at the moment, we're good with the gain. Again, this is an ongoing process. Mixing is very reactive, so as we get through one episode at a time, it may be one of those things where we have to adjust a little bit more clip gain on these individual regions. No big deal. It's the way it goes. So now we've got our colors coordinated, a bunch of our dead space trimmed out, our gain more or less set up, and we're kind of ready to go. And so from here, we'll hopefully have saved ourselves quite a bit of time. Setup day is really necessary, and it's really necessary to getting things kind of the way you like it so you can move quicker and really address the mixing issues instead of some technical stuff. Hopefully you found all this interesting and useful. Stick around for every single episode. Hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next episode comes up, and we'll go through the entire mix process from start to finish on this series. And I hope you have a wonderful day.